Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Hello.
Sorry we didn't get to doing this talk last month, but it is SOS for mamas. Our children's emotions are like a roller coaster, and it's school holidays, so it's actually the most awesome time for this anyway. Don't you think?
Yes, without a doubt. Oils are on high rotation around here at the moment.
It really is. It really is. Yesterday morning, I was out with my mum, and this woman was walking along with her little boy, and he was just like, and she just looked at me and rolled her eyes. And I went, day one of school holidays? And she went, no, 6 months till he goes to school and can't go pick it up. And I was like, oh, I pitched that incorrectly. Sorry.
That's funny. Let me jump to.
I should have pulled out Kid Power out of my handbag and gone, here, try some of this.
Ah,
Did you buy Kid Power, Joe?
Yeah, I did.
Look, here we are.
I'm undecided as to whether I like it or not yet.
Oh, really? Yeah. Hang on. Sorry, I can never figure out where to put us.
We're at the top at the moment.
I know. I think that will work. Oh, well, then you moved. I think that'll work anyway. I'll move us if I need to.
Okay.
This is us.
This is us.
Yeah. Some tips and tricks and hacks for all the emotional things. I'm Cressida.
The slides are great. I'm Joe.
I'm Kerry.
Let's hang on. There we go.
Great slides. Great slides.
Thanks, babe.
Little people, children are super sensitive little beings, aren't they? And more in our world, because of the stimulation and all the stuff, all the things that they can see in a day compared to when we were little people. There's so much more stuff that passes by their eyes and their faces, which is good because they can learn a lot, but also I think it revs them up. What do we think about that in some ways?
And I also think on the back of that, Ayurveda teaches that we digest everything and it's not just food. So it's every experience that we encounter in our day. So, it's what you see, what you hear, what you notice, what you eat, what you smell, what you touch, all of those things.
Who has had experience with a child who doesn't like particular fabrics or the tags annoy them and stuff?
Or their socks aren't quite right and it just takes that extra 45 minutes to get the school shoes on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I have had that experience.
Yeah. And then too, I think one of the biggest things is my husband likes to watch the news. I personally think the news is an advertisement for television channels to terrify us all, to keep us watching. And I hate that he watches it in front of the children because I also think it's a crock, by the way. And it's designed to be really engaging, right? And how do they make it engaging? They make it fearful. So I just, sorry, that sounded really judgy. If you like to watch the news, but just think about if that's something that your child should be watching. And one of the reasons that really came to mind for me was when my daughter was, I can't remember, and this is not a political comment, it's just an observation of how she felt. So when Trump came to power, she and her friends were talking on their group chat that the world was doomed and over because Trump was in power. Wow. And I'm like, well, where did they get that idea? Because they didn't know who that fella was.
Exactly.
And so, it was like, that was for me was like the nail in the coffin for the news. No news headlines. Thank you very much.
And I think on that, also just having the awareness. So if you are an avid news watcher, that's fine, but see how you feel before you watch the news and how you feel after. And if you do have children around watching, have a look at, what comes up in their conversations and in their actions, or maybe at bedtime or different things like that. And just having the awareness sometimes is helpful as well.
And talking about it too, right? Like, what have you seen? How does it make you? How does it make you feel? What did you think about it? Because we don't know also the associations they're drawing from it, and that can be different depending on what age group they are.
There was a real interesting thing a long time ago, actually. My then stepchildren, who were, I think, about 8 and 6 when 9/11 happened, and I remember the little one saying, we were in a park or something like that, and a plane flew over and he was terrified. He grabbed onto my hand. So that's back then, and there was less stimulation then from media than what there is now. I mean, it's just on steroids at the moment.
So
but
pervasive, yeah.
it really sets the tone for the household, no matter what time of the day it's on. It sets the tone. So I think, you know, cares to bring in some of your ideas. Why not set the tone with joy rather than doom and gloom and heaviness and weighted conversation, you know? Because with joy, we can easily invite out that discussion about our emotions. How do you feel? I feel so happy. I feel so excited. I feel they're much nicer emotions to talk about more of the time. So they fill their you know, front mind or their upstairs brain of happiness and confidence and fun stuff rather than heavy stuff. So,
you know, I'm going to jump in there though, and this is something that is in the slides later on, but I actually think it's really important that we teach them the vocabulary around, like, I'm going to say bad emotions, but emotions that don't feel so good.
yes.
Because I think that, you know, as a parent or a carer, it's our job to help them through, like, move through the emotions, not to like shut it down or, you know, I notice, and it's totally this is an experience we're going through as a family, so it's really very much like heartfelt, but I've noticed that I don't really talk about how I move through emotions, even though I'm quite good at it, but I don't talk about it out loud with the children. So at the moment we're doing this whole thing where in the car, it's like, we call it a challenge. So we try and like gamify it a little bit, and we talk about an emotion that feels good and one that feels not so good. And the beautiful thing with that, and the extra challenge is to try and use a word you haven't used before. So I've got a 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And so the one great thing is they actually, I never asked them to, but they tell me what the good thing was and what the bad thing was, which is cool, because normally it's like, how was your day? Good. How's your day? That, you know, that's it. So you get more out of them. But also I'm, you know, really, and I participate too. So and then I actually, a friend gave me, which we can put in the in some information later, gave me a emotions chart.
Yes.
And so just trying to really teach them that vocabulary around emotions and how to name them. And then sometimes we talk about where you feel it in your body, but that's like very much kind of next level. But because my kids are that little bit older, that certainly, actually you could do it with younger children too. It's just, yeah, you know, tapering it. But anyway.
Well, that's like labeling your emotions. Let me say, as a counsellor, there's a lot of adults who don't even know how to label their emotions.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic that they're going to learn that. They'll be ahead of the game to learn that, because it's not something we're taught always. And we're not taught to sit in the vulnerability of heart necessarily. Sometimes we're taught to, you know, power through it and you're all right, up you get, you're all right. That in itself, let's sit down for a minute. You've hurt yourself. How are you feeling? Are you sad? Okay, well, let's talk about how you're not going to feel sad, how we're going to move through sad. So they're lovely conversations to have. It's great, Chris, that you do that. It's fantastic.
Hi, Mel. My little one at the moment actually is really teary a lot. And my husband's tendency is not to criticize him, but it's just what he's used to is, you know, stop crying. And so we've really been talking about, I say, you know, mate, it's really good to cry because you're just letting those emotions out. And there's actually, they've measured that there's cortisol, there's actually stress hormones measurable in tears. So it does actually help de-stress you to cry. You know, when people say, you know, they watch a good teary movie and it's like they feel good afterwards, it's fact. It's like actually biology. So I love, you know, really applauding him for allowing the tears to come and, you know, feeling the disappointment or trying to help him label it because he's not, you know, doesn't quite have that language yet. But yeah, I love that. We're all, you know, all just working through stuff ourselves, right?
That's great. It's so good. Applauding you as a family to make the time to do it, because it'd be easy just to listen to the news or talk about, you know, something topical. That's great. They'll be, you know, emotionally mature, which is really going to be needed. It's needed in our world. Emotional maturity is so understated and it's really important. You know how strongly I feel about that.
Let's go. Oh, okay. Now the thing's in the wrong spot. Okay. Oh my God, we just bounced down there. What's happening? So we've kind of said this already, that, you know, how much our child absorbs in a day, that they not only read our emotions, but even if we try and keep it to ourselves or we don't say it out loud, they completely read it, don't they? They know, we know how much our mood affects them. But also, you know, as we were saying, that they don't really have the vernacular or the vocabulary to talk about those things yet. So we've got to really be mindful, I guess, of what we're bringing to the situation as well. So I was trying to move us. So who wants to move on to some practical stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Oh, my picture didn't work.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, it was there before.
Oh, go across the screen. Is it got you?
No. Oh, well, my picture didn't work. That's okay.
We're pictureless for this one. That's all right.
These are kind of just some really simple, like if it's one takeaway from today's talk, this is it. These few ideas.
I absolutely resonate with 1 and 4, even as an adult. There needs to be more of those things, and there's not enough of those things. And interestingly, I wanted to talk, if I can, quickly, Cress, to point number 5, less screen time.
We say as we're on screens.
Yeah, no, but this is not the type of screen time that obviously we're referring to, but there's a very strong language, and I would almost call it controversial pushback from the government and Minister for Education that parents need to take responsibility for their kids having less screen time. I feel really strongly about that, because I don't think parents are solely to blame, if to blame at all. I mean, our world has demanded and called for kids to have computers and this and that. So I don't think the language around that is right. I think managing less screen time with things like the example you gave of talking in the car, on your trips in the car to and from school, everyone could just be on their screen because that's easier.
Yep.
But you have so beautifully introduced something that detracts from that in a valuable way and builds some great life skills. So I think that's wonderful. I think it's
Jo, can I clarify? Are you saying that the government is saying that parents are completely responsible for monitoring the child's screen time?
Yeah.
Right. And you're suggesting that the government should implement some kind of education policy? What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the government can make some rules and be a lot more forceful or suggestive in, like, kids. I mean, I as you know, I'm a step parent, so I don't have any control over children. Control's not a nice word. I don't have any insight or power over children and them using their phones. But can schools not say, okay, well, no phones on while you're at school? Why can't they say that? Because there's a whole lot of.
Wouldn't you love if they had like a tech-free day? How good would that be?
Yeah.
So they are starting. Some schools are bringing in a no phone policy.
They are. Davidson High School brought in this secure pouch from America, which locks the phone in some type of pouch that they can't use it during the day. And the principal has said the change in bullying in the school has been absolutely insane. Like, the reduction has just been because kids are getting nasty to each other. The reason why I'm so strong about it, not is because that I'm a person who doesn't have kids and I'm saying you need to fix it. It hurts me because kindness has gone out the window with little kids. Like, little kids are being so mean to each other, and it upsets me so much because then they don't know how to deal with the emotion that comes from that. So yeah, it's I don't know the answer to it, but yeah, less screen time is a great suggestion. And I applaud you, Cress, on your thought of setting up the conversation in the car. It's great. Everyone could just have their heads down on their screens all the way to and from school, and they don't, and that's great.
Carrie, and I think
people do that.
Awareness around. Sorry, Chris, you go.
I was just going to say, your kids don't have a phone, do they?
No.
Does Charlotte need a computer in year 6 or no?
She uses it at school and for some homework, yeah.
Right, okay.
But so we have really strict guidelines around screen time. I've sort of accepted it's a part of life at the moment.
It is.
But trying to make them aware of the time that they're on and also balancing that with outside time. Yeah, and I was sick yesterday and they had been outside for a long period of time and they came in and said, we've been outside, we've done this, we've been for a bike ride. Can we please now watch telly? And I was like, sure. And so they're now growing up, hopefully knowing that you know, there's scope for all of it, but it's just about balance.
Yeah, to
I love
balance it out.
yeah, balance your screen with your green.
Yep,
I love
Oh,
that.
nice.
And can I just say too that this is not judgmental. So
No.
my older two have a phone, and they both have a laptop for school, which they spend way too much time on. And right now, while I'm here with you guys, they're all on the computer. And sometimes I just leave them at it because I need a little bit of quiet time. So it's not a judgmental thing, but we also talk about how it is that it's challenging because they are designed to make you want to spend more time on there. We talk about all the tricks that the companies play to, you know, because it's not their, I mean, phones are so addictive, right? We all know that.
Yes.
And I just think it's really important to be open about it, especially as they start to get their own devices. My kids they're not supposed to have their phones with them in the classroom. They're supposed to be in their bags. And they've got a filtering system through, like their laptops go on the school Wi-Fi and it's got a filtering system, but it does not seem to work because there are still kids watching Netflix. So, but that's really interesting that I guess they're at a private school, but just the way that that's set up. But look, you know, it's definitely a balance, and nobody should feel guilty, but it's just about the health and they're not great for our brain. So that's all.
And again, it's awareness and choice. You know, once you're aware of some things, you might make choices that are a little bit different or that support you a bit more too. And Tina's mentioned in the chat, there's a handy app, Family Link, lets you control kids' devices, time limits, apps, etc. So that's good to know as well.
Well, I think Tina's Android, but Apple has, you know, you have quite a lot of controls within their family thing in there. Family thing, that was technical. Anyway, I'm going to switch. We're going to go to the next page.
Okay.
So I guess this is just a little bit of the different ages that we consider. So of course, my little thing's in the same, but yeah, so babies, then we've got toddlers and tweens, teens, thinking about ourselves as parents, and also our own self-care and being an example about the kind of things that we're going to talk about. So they're just sort of some little markers to be thinking about the different strategies for those groups. Who wants to do babies? Who wants to go first with babies? Mel will be listening closely here.
I don't know much about babies.
I can do babies if you want.
You do babies. I don't know much about them.
Okay, so I had so my kids are like 5 years apart, and the amount of just, and I got a new niece last week, and my brother-in-law just showed a photograph where he's got like 2 different monitors. They've got a 2-year-old and a newborn, 2 different monitors, you know, with different letters on them. And anyway, not criticism, just an observation. But I had a baby monitor. I was terrified I wouldn't hear my baby, but we've learned all about the EMFs in the monitors and all that kind of stuff. And the reality is, once they're not newborns anymore, when they cry, they're freaking loud. So do you actually need a monitor? So we would have one like if we're sitting outside, but otherwise we didn't use it. We just left the door cracked. So that's one thing. So yeah, EMFs are a consideration. You know, there's a lot of radiation in the monitors. At least keep them far away from the baby. The ones that go underneath them are not great. The ones that this supposed, I don't know, the monitor like for cot death, or if they're not moving enough. I think that's designed to just give parents a complete heart attack, because babies do, you know, anyway. I would just let them scream a little bit, because you can hear them. And then in terms of, I had all these like play mats with like dingle dangles hanging down. And honestly, my daughter was she was, what's the word? What's it when they vomit all the time? Colicky, and
colicky reflux.
You know, she cried a lot. She just wanted to be in your arms. And I had so much stuff in this tiny little terrace. And you just don't need it. Like, all she wanted was my car keys. And in those days it was okay, because I didn't have, you know, everyone's got the electronic fobs these days. So if you gave it to a child and they dribbled all over it, it might die. So heads up on that one. But like, she just wanted the car keys, you know, she wanted kitchen spoon. Like, the best thing was like, you know, kitchen spoons. And yeah, just so thinking about, do you actually need all the toys? And someone gave us a beautiful rattle that was like just hand turned carved timber that came with a natural wax, and just kind of reducing it. I think that we got a recommendation from a pediatrician who I didn't have until my second child, so 5 years later, and he said, you know, when the babies get all kind of fractious and in that evening time, he said what it actually is very often it's overstimulation. And so he said, the best thing to do is to just remove them, go to a darkened room, breastfeed them if you're breastfeeding, or give them a bottle, but just really like quiet and as little as possible. And his biggest recommendation, he's quite a well-known pediatrician, was he called it the white wall. So you just stand patting them with a white wall behind you, just to really take everything out of their, and we know as the other one is, of course, taking them outside, like near trees and in nature, because that is very decompressing for them as well. And yeah, his recommendation was that even sometimes when babies, especially like maybe after Christmas, when you've had so many people over and they've been passed around like a sack of potatoes because everybody loves the baby and it's right in their face, is to actually take them to a quiet, dark room for he said even a couple of days, just to like completely decompress them, which that's hardcore, man. But I had to do that with my middle boy because he was so sensitive to stimulation that really was very effective for him. But also too, like even those things they teach you, like learning the baby's tired signs, and those things are crucial. And I don't think we give it enough credence, especially in the beginning, because especially when families around, we feel quite disempowered when families around wanting to cuddle our little cute newborn, and we're so proud, and basically you need your arms back to yourself for a minute. So no judgment, but
and I think also just taking the time to be with the baby. There's so much going on in the world, but really taking that time to disconnect and just
we've got Joe and I have our first grandchild coming within the next 5 weeks. And it was funny, we had a bit of a quiet chat to Jonathan only on the weekend, and we just said to him, because we're a very big family. There are 6 kids, there are step kids, there are step this and step that, and we just said to him, and he has a tendency still as an adult to get quite overwhelmed, and we both said to him, listen, this is a permission slip now. When baby comes home, if you just are overwhelmed with too much and too many people, then know that you have everyone's approval to say, we're going to go lockdown for about 3 or 4 days. We just need some time with the 3 of us, and do it. Like, don't feel guilty, just do it.
Maybe don't use that word though.
Pardon?
Maybe don't use that L word.
Oh yeah, sorry. Some quiet time.
PTSD.
So he was like, oh, we've already had that chat, and Tanisha is really on top of that. So I was like, good on you, that's really good. But I said it's really important because you can be so quickly overwhelmed just with your own emotion and your own excitement and your own acceptance of the situation. So we said, we don't mean to be wise grandparents, but we're just going to help you with this little bit of information.
You totally should be wise grandparents. That's your job. And just a note on oils with babies is, so if you are a prolific oil user, as I was for my last 2 pregnancies, so under walking age, they say not, to be really delicate. And of course, you do want the baby to be smelling you or mum and dad or the carer or the siblings or, those close family members. So you just want to be very restrained. But and I think it's dependent on your personal comfort level. I certainly diffused in a big room. I did it when I was pregnant. I used oils on my body when I was pregnant, so I didn't feel so concerned about it. But you definitely, I mean, I diffused I had cesareans for medical reasons, but I diffused in the hospital room, and the midwives would come in and they'd say, "You've got the quietest baby in here." And I also co-slept with them. I co-slept with all of them for 4 years each. So just kind of keeping it quite chill.
But isn't that what happens if you strip it right back, if you strip society right back to say, I don't know the words, I'm not good with my words this morning, but say jungle times, back to nature. There was co-sleeping, there was the sounds of nature and the trees and all of those things, and babies just were brought along, with the mum.
They didn't need a play mat with jiggly toys or rocking chairs because they were just attached to mum or dad or auntie or whatever.
Exactly. This is what I said to a friend of mine who was she had 4 weeks to go, and she's like, she's howling with crying. I don't have anything, I haven't bought anything, I don't know what to buy. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. In the jungle, the mum doesn't have anything. She's got herself. just herself. That's all you need. You're going to be there for baby. That's it. So, yeah, I think you're right. There's all this attention around all the things that you need, and go to Baby Kingdom and load up. Easy for me to
Save your dollars for a massage for mama or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So should we move on to toddlers?
Yeah.
So I guess, again, with the natural toys, I always thought that there was like I liked it when they got to toddlers and you could do activities with them. So then they got tired. My kids always started swimming really early, like from 6 weeks. And the sleeps after swimming were just, I waited for that day every week. It was amazing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I did an emotion coaching course with one of my children's daycare when they were in daycare. So just pre-kindy, but it also helped a lot with my kindy child. And it taught a lot about acknowledging the emotions that the toddler or the younger child was experiencing. So instead of, the 45 minutes to put the shoes on, nope, you just have to go, we're in a rush, get out the door. And then it would just explode. Taking the time to go, I can see, if the toddler, for example, is upset, I can see you're sad. And just like literally counting to 10 and letting them deal with that. And, are you sad? You look sad. Your face is frowning and your eyebrows are down, and different things like that. Or, gee, I can see that you might be a bit frustrated because you've got really clenched fists, or just little things like that to de-escalate the situation, but still acknowledging where they are. And I found that putting that into practice was an absolute game changer. So, I think you can, and, it doesn't always happen at the most convenient time. So it's a real lesson for everybody, because generally it's while you're trying to, you've got -2 minutes to be where you're going and you're trying to bundle everybody in. But sometimes you just got to be late. And that's, it's more important to sit and be with the child. And even if, if they're hurt or whatever. So I found that a really useful little tool for the toolbox as well.
I agree. I think when you see their emotion or like help them with it, it actually makes it shorter as well, rather than building all that resistance.
Without a doubt.
It's a Herculean effort sometimes to be able to
it's massive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works better than others. But again, it's awareness, having those tools to be able to go, probably should have taken a deep breath there, rather than, because ultimately they're not trying to rev us up. They're just learning their way in the world as well.
Well, what you described is closely related to really validating their emotional response to something that they're having. And so by taking that extra minute, and as you say, perhaps sometimes having to be late, you're making a better day for everyone. Because if they're like angry or frustrated because they can't do up their shoelace, for example, then they go to kindy in that state. So they get to kindy in that state. By pausing and taking that minute with them and validating that emotion, you're sending them to kindy then back with a reset. You know what I mean? So then they'll be more open to learning, more open to love and kindness in that space of kindy as well, which is really lovely. That's a really lovely
thing. I think as the child gets older and you get to know them better as well, I've got one that takes a long time to get ready in the morning. And now I know that I just give them that time and let them go. I've got another one who I can't ask to do too many things at once because it's just too much. So, through not great practices, I've learned that. So now I know, have you X? Great. Leave it a while. Have you Y? Great.
Yeah.
So
just a little heads up, Addis has just connected my mouse that he came and took, and it's connected to my computer. So if everything goes wild, I'll scream at him and get it back.
Awesome. Speaking of technology,
connected. Can I just say also with that one is that I think the tired times are even more important as a toddler than when they're a little baby. But also thinking that they're not little adults and they don't have the capacity to self-regulate the way that adults do. Correct. And remember that some adults never learn how to self-regulate. I don't know about you guys, but do you know anyone who still like kind of chucks the toys out of the basket? And I mean an adult, and I can tell you there's one in my house that does that and loses his shit. He will be like papers off a table. And I'm like, wow. But I think it's also interesting because he would never do that in the boardroom. So I'm like, what allows you to think that that's in front of the children? So, self-regulation is something that, I mean, when we're tired or, I guess just reflecting on the fact that for ourselves, if we're not in the right frame of mind, it's really hard for us to hold our emotions. So how can we expect a little child to be able to do that? And just kind of, helping, like Kerry said, like name them and sitting with them and just, giving them that time and space to sort of move through those things. Giving them the vocabulary and stuff. And I think, so I used to teach yoga at a daycare center or daycare centers. And some of the techniques that we would use for mindfulness in this age group, and I'm sure you guys have got other ideas, are like, so just like balloon belly breath breathing. So like, breathing in and imagining a balloon expanding in your belly. Also, we know that breathing a slow out breath is really good for our nervous system. It tells us that we're like safe. So we would do a technique where we'd have, the cotton balls. I haven't used those in years, I don't think, since then, but like the big puffy cotton balls, and get a straw and practice kind of blowing them across the room, which is really good for helping them to, because it gamifies, focusing on that long, slow out breath. And then I noticed my kids' teachers have taught one in kindy where they breathe in, out, all the way across the fingers. And so I think that's quite a nice one. They would get them to reset that way as well. A perfect opportunity to use an oil for a scent tent. And Kerry, really, I know that you're so passionate about teaching them to get the oil that resonates with them rather than telling them what oil they need to get. I think that's so empowering for them. We all know that because we are regular oilers, but giving the kids that freedom to just pick what feels good is, I think amazing.
Yeah, that's really special.
That's beautiful.
And then they know that, they're empowered to be able to manage situations, particularly for mine as nerves for one and concentration for another. And they've just over the time, if they're voicing that they're feeling, this way, it's sort of like, well, have you seen the oils? Do you want to use an oil? Oh, yes, I do. Which one do you want to use? Go and see what's there and pick what you think will be supportive. And, as a result, now I've just seen them, they just go and help themselves sometimes. I'm like, oh, well, that's amazing.
That's so good.
It's so when they're little, like letting them fill the diffuser, even though that's terrifying because they're going to spill the water or spill the oils everywhere. It's like but that's really empowering as well.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah. Tell me, Jo, have you got like some seedling stuff put aside for the little one coming?
Not yet, but I will absolutely get onto that in my order, definitely.
Do you guys know the physiological sigh breath?
I have read about it, yes, but not in children, in adults I've read about it, and like a yawn. A yawn is a very good indicator that you like, if a kid's have an absolute meltdown and they're just so upset, and then you sit down and you work through what they're upset about, and then they calm down and then they just start to yawn. Or even as adults, there's no secret I've had some hostility in the last little while and I'll be that worked up, but then when I'm calm, I start to yawn, and then I know that peak has passed and my body is sort of coming back down to a sense of calmness. And it's not that you're tired, it's like the sigh.
It's a release. So this physiological sigh breath is actually it's a technique to tell your body you're safe. So it's 2 short breaths in and then a long, slow breath out. I don't know if you'll be able to hear, but just like.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is a lot of research behind it, but it actually just tells the nervous system that you are safe and calm, a little bit like yawning. Yawning's like an emotional release, but also you can't yawn if you're stressed. Like
No.
if you are being chased by a tiger, there's no way you're yawning. Like it's just not happening. But that physiological sigh breath is such a good thing to teach young children, because and you have to teach them when they're happy and calm, because otherwise they're never going to be able to do it when they're stressed. But if it becomes, we practice it in the car. And then I was just thinking with toddlers in terms of soothing them. So I've got one child who loved to be cuddled when he was a toddler. And so he really wanted you to hold on to him and, you know, really, I guess, share that emotion physically. Whereas my other one hates it. He's like my little wildcat. You had to sit next to him and just, you know, he would rage on the spot. But like, you know, if you left him, it would, like, you don't want to leave them alone with these massive feelings, but just to be next to him and be ready for when it had all moved through him. And sometimes it's really challenging because it's ugly and completely out of control, and like, you know, part of you just wants to like stop it because it's so uncomfortable. But letting them move through that, and you know, they learn that you trust them to move through their emotions, that they can trust their body to do it, and they're safe because you're there. I mean, obviously, you know, if they're running towards a road, which he also used to do, you can't allow that. Like, we would just have to grab him, which would escalate the tantrum. But I'm not going to let you run into the road because you're mad. But yeah, just noticing what they're comfortable with in terms of physical touch when they're losing it is, I think, really helpful as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So we're up to kindy, yes?
Yeah.
So I'm not very experienced with kindy, but my instinct would say that they could come home from kindy being a little bit wired maybe, and that would be a good time to sit down and have something nice and nutrient dense to eat, without a TV or a radio or music blaring in the background, just some quiet time to sit and reflect on, you know, how was your day, and is there anything that you wanted to share from today, or encouraging them to talk about how they're feeling, although that might be I might be a bit heavy with that, I don't know. They're still quite young at that age. Yeah, that's probably all I can put to that. Early dinner at kindy.
Definitely at the start of kindy and early bed. They are so tired to begin with.
Don't let them get hungry, or don't let them get past hungry, and don't let them get past tired. I feel that would be a bit, I think the word routine screams out to me. Where possible, a routine is a wonderful resource for that type of thing.
Yeah. And I also think some free time. You know, there's the temptation, and we're so blessed to have so many opportunities for our children, but the temptation to book them into all the things and all the activities. And sometimes they just need to, you know, swing on the swing or jump on the trampoline or hang around outside digging in the dirt. They're still, you know, only quite young, and just that downtime, I think, is really important.
Yeah, because it's a lot to fit in their day. I mean, I always talk about that parallel of, you know, for adults, for us to go to work and do an 8-hour day, we're tired after that. We are tired after a day's work. They're going to feel the same. They're not resilient to that. So,
and also feel like you're loved when they get home and lose it after a day at school, because you are their safe place. They're not doing it to piss you off or to push your buttons. No. They're doing it because they've been spending the whole day trying to listen and concentrate and do what they're supposed to do and be where they're supposed to be. And sometimes it's a lot, you know, like you say, Jo, if you're an adult and you have a full-on day at work, sometimes you just get home and want to lie on the floor in the fetal position. So I think, you know, don't take it personally. Take it as a real feather in your cap that they are comfortable to be just let it all out when they get home, and working with them, you'll work out the best ways to sort of support them through it. But yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but my kids are so hungry when I pick them up. And I remember the same thing. Like, my parents had only had lunch at like 2:00 and I finished school at 3. And so they were not interested in giving me, because they were both at home, not interested in giving me any food. And I was like, I wanted to eat the entire fridge. I was so hungry. And even now, you know, that I've got one in year 2, year 6, and just graduated last week, like, they're all hungry after school. So I just think, you know, really making sure that they've got something quality snack. And I think I mentioned later on, So we drive, and like it takes about 30 minutes to get home from school, which is a nightmare because you're like compressed in the car. There's like a lot going on in there. But if you can,
and everyone's hungry.
If you can walk home with, like, I have to feed them as soon as I get them in the car, because otherwise it's just, yes, it's not good. But if you can walk home, I just feel like that is such a especially just letting them move after being stuck in a classroom. Like, it's just not natural to be sitting around at that age, I don't think.
I'd love to walk home in the afternoon.
The groundingness of walking home would be lovely.
Yeah. If you could stop in a park on the way, or Kez, you've got that beautiful bush right next to you.
Yeah, we walk home most days. Well, my son rides, and that's just what he needs, and my daughter walks and regurgitates her whole day. And it's really beautiful because I get that time with her. He gets, to move and puff, and then he's happy, and they both, eat the house out, and that's it.
That's so good. All right. Well, tween.
Yeah, I think they're the most needy in terms of emotional regulation. 100%. It's like, and then, so what I've said this is, so as a parent, trying not to lose it when they take out their day on you, because that is so common. And I don't know if you guys have ever read the book, but Nonviolent Communication. So it's
I've got it to read.
Yeah, that's so funny timing. It's a way of reflecting back. So, if they, my day was the worst, you're the worst mother, I hate my family, right? Just for example, and you just say, wow, I can hear that you're really distressed about your day. I've heard you say that you think I'm the worst mother, and that the family is the worst. When you say that, it makes me feel really sad and upset, because we love you so much. I'd prefer it if you can tell me you're really upset and we can talk about what happened. So it's you need a medal if you can do it all the time. And it's actually great to use with everybody in your life. It's a really good form of arguing, of like getting through things, because we all say things we don't mean. But it is not easy, and your child will most likely initially hate it, because I certainly know, because of the range of ages, is they feel terrible when they take stuff out on you. They know that they're being nasty, and it makes them feel even worse, but they just need to get it out. So just really being, like you said before, that safe space to allow that to happen.
And they don't know, even as you said, Chris, some adults don't know how to frame something up. In our best version, we might, as an adult, say, look, I'm really disappointed in you. You've let me down because you didn't turn up when you said you were going to turn up. As an adult, that's how we would frame it, being a healthy adult. But as you're saying, kids, it just comes out. They don't have an edit function. They don't have a review the draft of it function either. So it just comes out in whichever way it can. And you're right. It's medal worthy if you can then just pause, cop that lashing, reframe it, bracket it. And I like the way you described that. I heard you say that you're upset with mummy, and I heard you say that you don't like our family. Let's just take a minute and we'll work through that. Is that okay with you? And then asking their permission for that dialogue to continue, and that it not be too much for them, but then the volume can come down on it, and it's bracketed and represented back to them in a way that makes them feel safe.
And know that that's like a work in progress. Like the first time they're most likely going to like lose their shit at you even more. But it's like something you practice. So you practice it over time. It's all about teaching them those skills to be able to, even in their own mind, to be able to isolate in on what it is. I mean, one of the things, I don't even know if we've spoken about it, but I might have said it before we started the presentation, but even asking them if they can feel where an emotion is in their body. I mean, that's like as adults, if we're doing that kind of work, it's like totally next level. But we know that emotions get trapped inside our body. So if we can give them the skills that we're learning, decades later, like how, what an awesome bunch they're going to be. They'll
be great. Well, they'll be great citizens and lovely, kind people. Yeah.
Won't that be a beautiful legacy for us?
We would like that.
And I really love, as I said, a half an hour car drive is a car diffuser. So I like to diffuse harmony in the car, lavender, peace and calming, even though people say you shouldn't do that when you're driving. Trust me, my kids need it. All those kind of soothing blends to to just try and take the edge off. But this is kind of the area between, you know, upper primary school and, you know, as we like for all ages, where we can bring in all these kind of different strategies that we've mentioned before, which I think might be on the next slide. So I'm going to just skip over. Say this first. So
we've pretty much worked through those things, activities to teach regulation, holding a safe space, our role to help them move through the emotion and can't and don't want to stop them feeling distress. We
learn from that, right? If we don't learn ugly feelings, like, you know, life is not all unicorns and rainbows, sadly.
Welcome the emotions.
So these are just different techniques we can use. Whoever wants to go. Kez, why don't you go?
Sure thing. So any sort of movement helps, you know, as yourself. I find if I'm not moving, walking, running, any sort of activity just moves emotions through. It gets endorphins flowing. It just makes you feel better. So yoga, sport, getting outside, playing a game of tip. If you haven't played tip with your kids lately, I challenge you to do it without wetting your pants laughing. It is so hilarious.
I do that too. I can never get away from them because I'm laughing so hard.
Now mine are so tall and they've got these great big arm reaches. I'm a lost cause. I used to whip their butts, but not anymore. Not competitive.
And when they come, like when they all gang up on you, it's so like I'm on the ground.
Oh, so funny. But so just, you know, don't discount the benefits of movement. And it could just be putting a song on that they love and jumping around the house with it. Like, it doesn't have to be this massive event. Keep it simple, and kids love it as well. Short meditations are really good. And that could be just, you know, something as simple. My children at the moment are really loving visualization. So at bedtime, my daughter in particular says, "Mummy, can you give me a visualization?" And I'm like, pick a place. And so it might be the bush, it might be the beach, it might be whatever. And I just go through the 5 senses and say, you know, you can feel the warm sun on your skin, and you can see the sparkling blue water, and you can taste the sand in your teeth or whatever. She hates sand, so that's probably not a good one. But just little things like that. Something as simple as, you know, close your eyes and put your hands on your tummy, and as you breathe in, try to push your hands away. Little things like that, or just, use your imagination.
Put me to bed, Kerry?
Beg your pardon?
Can you come and put me to bed?
Oh, sure, anytime. I'm very excellent. I have myself so calm by the end, and she's basically snoring.
Yeah, no.
Excellent.
So listening to their favorite tunes. Music is a mood shifter. That's the kitchen dance off I was talking about before. But my kids at the moment are just loving these ridiculous songs. But
corn? Have you got It's Gone?
No.
That's a TikTok thing, don't worry.
Oh, they found a hilarious, actually, I'll have to find it and share it, but they found this hilarious toothbrushing one the other day. And it was all about farts. And they were just off their faces laughing at it. I'm like, I just don't even understand.
But that's the best. That's the best to see them in that state.
Oh, it's so good.
There's nothing more beautiful and innocent than just children laughing.
Laughing at farts.
Yeah, it's the most divine thing. I remember all 4 boys when they were little, just the word bum would get said once, and that's it. It's for the next hour, everything is just bum, and it's so entertaining to watch them.
Oh, it's gold, isn't it?
Yeah,
oils, obviously we're all massive lovers of oils. Now, whether you diffuse it in the house or the car or wherever you are, use yourself as a diffuser. Often I'm seeing a bit of resistance with my son at the moment with oils. And so if they're not that keen to use them, or if they're a bit young or whatever, you can be the diffuser. So just put oils on yourself, and, you know, by association, they will reap the benefits. A really interesting one, you can also, Cress is a big fan of putting oils in their shoes. I think that's great as well.
I don't even know it's there.
There's an oil called Purification, which is really great for purifying the air and things and stinky shoes and what have you, but it's also been found to be really supportive for anger and things like that. So what you can do is apply that over the liver area, and that can help with anger. So if you've got a toddler who's, you know, really challenged to work out, you know, their anger and things like that, diffusing that one or putting it on you or them if you can get near them, is something as well. But I mean, you work out your favorites, and you also, by just having a few sitting around and saying to them, do you want to pick an oil, over time they'll soon intuitively select what they want anyway. And it's really, really cool to watch that, and how that supports their personality. As I said before, I've got one who's 100 miles an hour in every direction and always goes towards peppermint, which is interesting because he's also a pitter. So peppermint's great for focus, it's great for cooling, and concentration and things like that. And then my little Vada loves joy, and so it's really uplifting. And yeah, so that's really
Can I just one, Kerry, when you said if you can even get near them, sorry, it just called on me to say that, you know, energetically our children are still like 100% connected to us. So we can use the oils even on our own liver, and it definitely will, you know, transfer over into their energetic field as well.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
And then oils in their shoes, obviously, or their collar or the crown of their head. Often if we get the sniffles, I'll just pop some on the inside of their shirt to help with that. And then massage is obviously very beautiful, and mine at 9 and 11 are still lining up for massages whenever they can swing one.
Savor that as much as you can, because as soon as they get to that point where they're like, don't touch me. Especially the boys are, yeah, it's terrible when that happens.
Saskia's come back now that she's 17. She's like, don't touch me. And now she's like, give me a massage.
I love it.
They do, and they go through that. Yeah, they go through that, especially the boys. They kind of wander off and they don't want any sort of, it's like they're resisting the feminine energy. They want to be in testosterone and tough and rugged and, you know, I want to do everything my dad does. And then they come back when they're like in their early 20s, they come back and they're like, I love you. And they give you hugs and it's like, oh, it's so nice.
I did my level 1 Reiki certification. So they love it when I do Reiki on them as well.
Oh, you know, I'm going to come over so you can do some Reiki on me. Yes. Yes.
Joe, do you want to do this one?
Naming emotions. Well, we kind of touched on that earlier. I think it's I just think it's so important as humans, not kids, adults, babies, tweens or anything. I just think as humans, we need to be able to name our emotions, because it helps us navigate our way through to the other side of them, and not just either go, you know, the shop's closed and shut down everything and just bury it, or be reactive. We just learn to navigate our way through them. And yeah, so it's wonderful. Scent tents are our beautiful way of, you know, just getting oils into us quickly and feeling the benefits of them really quickly as well. They are lovely, and depending on what you need and where you are, you can just grab, and you've seen me applying oils twice while we've been on this call this morning. I can't help it. I've got about 30 of them on my desk, so I just go to them all the time.
I was going to say the pre-made rollers are great for kids because they can grab them themselves. They're pre-diluted. Yeah, and there's one for everything.
Yeah, they're fantastic. The physiological side we touched on, that is a beautiful way to get some relief. The body will experience some relief from that. The singing and gargling for vagal tone. Vagal tone is so important, and I don't remember ever in my life being taught about it, which is so disappointing. I've learned about it later in life, and it's intrinsically, it is all through our body, and it is so apparent with so many things that our body does. Body temperature, our voice, it's connected to our chakras and how we respond. And okay, those things are not overly relevant to a small child, but again, if they can learn to put some energy into screaming out their favorite song when they're feeling a bit amped up and they've got to put some energy somewhere and it's not appropriate for them to be able to go and run outside on the grass or whatever, then singing and clapping and really improving that vagal tone Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
The mouse just connected.
I was just going to say, we lost the screen for a minute. Mindful activities, sitting down and doing some board games, some colouring in. Colouring in has become quite trendy, which is good in a lot of ways because it's a nice pastime and it teaches patience and just to sit still. Not for everyone at every time, but it is a nice thing to have. Time in nature. Put your hand up as a kid if you were taken in school holidays on bushwalks. Yes. And didn't we hate it? But how did we know it was? How did we not know it was so good for us? So it's certainly on my to-do list of spending more time in nature, which needs improving. And tapping. Tapping is not something I'm familiar with. I think, Chris, you're across what that is?
I am a super fan of, so it's called EFT, so emotional freedom technique, I think it's called, but it's just a way of using the Chinese meridians. You can teach it to children. No, Kerry's kinesiologist or chiropractor. Teaches it as well, but it's you can do it very subtly. People don't need to know what you're doing. We can maybe run a class on it, but it's a great technique. It really literally teaches you how to just bring yourself from a level of distress, and you initially just name that level of distress, and then you make some statements. You acknowledge the emotion that you're feeling and why you're feeling it, and then you actually just tell yourself that it's okay to feel that. And this is all the techniques we've been talking about before, and you can measurably, after you do a few rounds of tapping, because you're tapping on the Chinese meridians, you will bring that level of distress down, because you're literally telling your body, I can see you, I can hear you, I can feel you, I love you anyway, even though you're having this distressing feeling, and it just goes. So it's really beautiful, super empowering. There's actually, I want to do my certification next year. There's a lovely lady who does a lot of work through Brisbane University, or a university in Queensland. I can't remember what it's called, but she's written a whole book on scientific studies and using EFT. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is quite lovely. I know myself, if I'm really stressed, it doesn't work all the time, but if I'm really stressed or just agitated, and if I'm out, if I just put my hand here and just pat, that will calm me down sometimes. It will just reset me. It's really strange. It's obscure, but it works. So I just, I breathe a bit of an oil in, and I just kind of walk and do this. And it's like, that's the same as patting babies. I mean, I don't know.
It is, yeah.
I haven't had babies. Yeah. Is it the same? I mean, babies do like that, don't they? If they're a bit unsettled sometimes.
Noting that we've been talking quite a lot, and we'll just kind of go through a little bit more quickly.
Okay.
Why are my photos not turning up? It's so weird. You guys saw that there were photos, right?
Yeah. But they've turned up on some and not others, which is really weird. Anyway,
so just some quick tips, that is good for everybody. Walking home from school is amazing, as we've discussed. Making sure they've got a really good snack after school and plenty of sleep. And if this is, a child that's not in school, then obviously just, spending some time moving, making sure they're getting a good protein snack in the afternoon. And all of us as humans need plenty of sleep.
And the pictures are back.
Back. Yeah, who knows why.
Let's do less instead of more. Absolutely.
Yeah. And who remembers like all those games in the car as a kid?
Yes.
One of the best ones, my brother and I used to play corners, which always ended up in a fight, but God, it was fun.
Yeah. We used to play the one where you measured your arm across the seat like that, and then you had to try and hit them, and it was a bit like corners, really. You push them into a corner.
Yeah.
We play I Spy, but they sound fun.
Yeah, I Spy, we played that as well. What was I going to say then? Making a pile of fun out of nothing when you played on the street with your friends. Lost hours, honestly, playing on the street with friends as a kid. Always.
Yeah.
So
we had acres and acres of paddocks. So, the joy you can find in a pile of marshmallow, making a cubby house out of anything,
Totally.
Skating and we're so scared that our children will be bored these days. Like I know I'm completely a victim. Like I pick up my phone when I'm sitting waiting for 5 minutes. Like we just lost the ability to be bored. And I think it's so crucial to having fun and being creative.
My kids get so cross and they say I'm bored. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Yep.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Try and invoke boredom on yourself. I've made a rule for myself. If I'm waiting in a doctor's surgery or I'm waiting in line at the bank or something like that, not allowed to get my phone out. And I've noticed so many more things because of it. It's really good. It's really good.
Watching the world go by.
People watching. I like to people watch. Or on the bus. I'm the only person with my head up sometimes.
Yeah.
Everyone else has got their head down.
The other thing we wanted to say is that focusing on all of the foundations of health is really important. So hydration, movement, nutrition, sleep, mindset, all of those things. But that's, something we've spoken about in other talks as well. And then that is, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can reach us at our email address, creatingconsciouswellness@gmail.com, or there are our Instagrams. You can, Ease Therapy is Joe, Keslock is Kerry, and I'm very secretly Cressida.
Yeah, if you don't use oils and you want to get your hands on them or you want some samples, please reach out, because we've got the cream of the crop and they really are an incredible tool to have in your toolbox as a parent or as a human being. So yeah, even if you're curious, just reach out. We'd love to support you.
Yeah.
100%. All righty, thank you. I'll just stop that screen share there.
Thank you.
Oh, my notifications are coming up again. Just going to stop recording. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.